Hello and welcome to class number 1 of these live childbirth class series that hope you marked your calendar. They are going to take place December 1st through December 14th every night or day, depending upon where you are watching this, and at the same time. So for me in Seattle, it's 5:30, very dark Seattle, though you can't tell through my windows. Where are you watching this from? If you're watching this live, then you have the chat available. Please let me know in the chat where you are watching this from. I am so excited about tonight's class and class for the next 2 weeks. I usually teach about a 12-hour childbirth class. So this has been broken down and rearranged and try to make it something exciting and fun, and something a little different for YouTube, for you on YouTube. So I see people here from, oh my gosh, New Jersey, California, Kentucky, Oregon, Nashville, Salt Lake City, Toronto. Awesome. Welcome, guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I have been to many of these places, not for a while, of course, because I've been spending, as probably you guys have been, the last year in this office right here. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome. I see Jamie, Aubrey, Monique, Linda, Judy. So many. It's going really fast. Tara, Heather. Welcome everyone. And whatever brings you here tonight, you are welcome. The class is really made for people who are expecting a baby in their future. But it also works well for people who work with people expecting babies, or if you are supporting someone who is expecting a baby, or maybe you're watching as a couple. However, whatever brings you here, you are welcome. Feel free to let me know in the chat what brought you here today. I am really excited about tonight's class. And, as I mentioned in the beginning, I usually teach a 12-hour class. So we're not going to try to fit everything in. You won't leave this class knowing everything about birth in general. But I'm hoping to break down a few of these topics so that you have some good information about the particular topics that we cover today, and so that you have some strategies. What I have learned, this is my 15th year, actually going on 16th year of being a doula. I've worked with over 300 couples and as a doula, and have taught childbirth classes for many years as well, about 10 years now. I need to add that up. What I have learned, and I hear feedback from people just like you, is that when you take a class, you don't have enough time to practice. And on the other side, when I ask for feedback, I often hear from people that say, I don't like practicing. I mean, it's hard to practice something new, right? So we're going to do it together. And each class, I'm going to have a practice time to practice what we learned in the class at the end. But you're not allowed to skip. If you're here for the class, it's just 1 hour and it'll be worth it, believe me, because at the end, you'll be going into this new life experience, or an experience that doesn't happen much, with some good skills. Now, awesome, I have a quick peek at the chat, and it looks like we have a variety of people here. Awesome. Thank you for being here. If you're enjoying this at any time, if you find something that is helpful, hit the like button. It really does help other people find the video. And if you share it with someone that you know, or a community that might find these free classes helpful, please share it. That is really the intention of the class. So a couple things before we really dive in. I really recommend to take some notes. So if you have your notebook, I'm smiling because I see in the chat that one of our subscribers, Moya, said she was in early labor. Moya, let me know if I pronounced your name right. And you're trying to progress labor. So I love it. That's so exciting. Keep us posted if anything happens. I would love something huge to happen here. Okay, so take some notes. I do recommend it. Interact in the chat if you, this is a community here watching together. So please get in that chat. And I also find that the more interactive you are in the chat, the more it helps you remember what's going on. Ask questions. If I don't see your question, post it again at the end of our live, because I will make sure and I go through any open questions, okay? Awesome. I just got a text confirmation from my assistant who let me know things are going well. So we are ready to go. I'm going to give some homework. It's optional. It's recommended, but I do give homework. And let's get started. So you might have heard if you looked at the video that talked about this class, but there is a companion book. It's available as a physical book like this, and it's also available as a digital book. Links down below. Any of the references that I make to other videos or resources, I will put, or they should already be in the links below the video. Also down there, you will find a link to become an insider. So if you want to, or you want me to email you and let you know homework or information, heads up on what the next class is going to be about, make sure you fill that out. And I'll remind you again at the end too. Okay, guys, let me introduce our first topic. So here we go. You already said hello. And, oh, it is, I wanted to mention, if you guys have watched any of the big Wheel of Birth, today is the 1-year anniversary of the first spin. So let me know in the chat if you've watched any of those videos. Okay. So here are our 3 sections. Every class is going to be structured this same way, so you will know what to expect. The first part of our class, we're going to talk about how birth works. So we will talk about anatomy, physiology. This is really going to be sort of the how, probably what you would expect from a childbirth class. So we'll talk about how birth works. Part 2 of the class is when I'm going to go into coping strategies. So that's where we're going to get our real practical skills of how birth works. I mean, how to cope with what's happening in birth works. Then that 3rd section is what I talked about. That's where we're going to do our practice. You and I, we're going to practice together, all of us collectively, and it's going to be a time to get any of your questions answered as well. Awesome. I'm glad you guys have seen some of the big wheel videos that all got started last year at this time. Right there. You probably recognize that. Okay, so today we're talking about one of the most important parts of anatomy that gets so much action, that gets talked about all the time in labor, and that is the cervix. I like to start at the cervix because it is the most popular thing that people talk about. It actually makes me, it's changed so much in my time of working in birth that I find it kind of funny that sometimes you'll see like Facebook posts where people share their cervical dilation, or, you know, your husband says, hey, one of my coworkers, she said that she's 2 centimeters dilated. Like, people talk about their cervix a lot. So it is a really important piece of anatomy. And it really, knowing how it works is key, I think, to understanding what's going on in labor. Now, let me know if you saw the video today about the Chick-fil-A cup. If you know any childbirth educators, you might know that we like to look at different things in everyday life as teaching tools. So my family and I, we did go to Chick-fil-A this week and preparing for this class. And all of a sudden I looked at the cup and I realized this is a perfect way to describe the cervix. So I'm going to grab it. Also, my office has looked completely junky because I have 4 Chick-fil-A cups just sitting around. It's okay. Okay. Here we go. Chick-fil-A cup. This is one prop I need. My second is this. This is my iPhone charger block. Okay. I'm going to use these two to discuss the changes that happen in your cervix when you are in labor. Okay. And I have one more prop. Give me 1 second. Thought I had it all. My little Play-Doh. Okay, guys. So the cervix is the exit of our uterus. And it's pretty awesome when we are pregnant because all of its qualities are set up to keep the baby safe, or babies. The cervix is hard, it's long, it is closed, and it's actually pointed backwards in our body. So it's almost pointed this way towards our back. All of these work together to keep the baby safe. However, baby can't come out unless that cervix changes. So actually, let me grab the baby. Did anyone see the baby hiding over there behind me? Awesome. Okay, so the baby is inside the uterus, and the exit is long and thick, and it kind of looks like, let me show you this. It is like the, what is this called? The block, charging block of an iPhone. So this is not going to work, right? Baby is not going to come out if we can't change that up. So what has to happen is the cervix has to transform from this shape, bring back that Chick-fil-A cup when I cut it off, to this shape. So our cervix, when it is fully opened or dilated, it is 10 centimeters. And this large size is almost exactly 10 centimeters. Let me know in the chat, have I lost you? Are you like, what is going on? How does that happen? How does that happen? Our body that looks like this turns into this. It opens and it thins so much and spreads out that this makes more sense though now, right? If this is our cervix and we have our baby coming through, this makes sense. And I'm positioning it just right so the baby's top of the baby's head, where its nice soft spots are coming through. So the cervix makes a huge change in labor. And this is why it takes so long. The body has to, the cervix has to open all the way, close to open, and it has to thin, right? So here's where our Play-Doh comes in. During labor, the work of labor are the contractions. And as the contractions are, as our uterus is contracting, every time it contracts, if you can imagine that my wrists are where the cervix is. Each time the uterus contracts, it pulls open the cervix. It pulls it, pulls it, pulls it, pulls it, pulls it. That's why labor is so long. That's one reason, one thing that has to take place in order for the baby to come out. Because we have to get that, we have to transform that cervix. Now, Christina said, that still doesn't look like it fits. Well, this is the interesting part of this, this model is that this is pretty much how it is, that it is a tight fit. We don't want, as soon as our cervix to dilate to 10 centimeters, for the baby to just slip out. I mean, let's be honest, we might want it to be that way, but really for safety reasons, it needs to be effort. It needs to take some time, and that is the time of pushing. So we're going to go into pushing in more detail on another day, but I hope this gives you a visual of what happens with the cervix. That's right. Keisha said our bodies were created to stretch. I'm going to put that one up on the screen because I like that so much. That's right. Our bodies are made to do this crazy work that it is and make all of these changes, right? So what is interesting, another thing about cervical checks, sometimes I am asked, how do they know how do the nurses, the doctors, the midwives, how do they know how dilated you are, right? And what it's done with 2 fingers. So if the cervix was thick and hard, they would put fingers in the vagina and feels hard, no small opening maybe, right? But as the cervix is all the way dilated, and this isn't completely accurate because it would be thinner. There's still some thickness to this, but imagine it's like paper thin. I couldn't quite cut it. When the cervix is checked, the nurse or doctor or midwife will feel and can feel all the way around the baby's head, okay, during a vaginal exam. So, which we will also talk more about. The cervix has a big change to do. So that is one of the things that is going on that takes so much time. Sometimes I hear people say, why does it take so much time? Speaking of time, here's a little pop quiz for you guys in the chat. Let me know what you think the average first-time labor is. Number of hours, okay? Number of hours, first-time labor. And we'll see how close that is. And it's a rough estimate. So if you guys were in my class, if we were all sitting in the same room, I might give you some Play-Doh and you could work on that and make it eventually into a ring. But alas, we're virtual. And 20, 20, 36, 16, 4, 20, 16. They all came in at once. Okay. These are some good guesses. Woo! So the quote that I usually give is 18 hours. 18 hours. So it takes quite a while. Anytime you see birth on TV or in movies, it's so wrong. It's so short. It's like contractions start and baby has to come. Because the reality is they can't show 18 hours of labor of the cervix going, right? Yeah. Whew. Okay. So summarizing our cervix today, there's 4 ways that the cervix changes. The cervix dilates. That's the one everyone talks about. It opens. It has to efface. So it's thick and it has to thin. The cervix also changes with position. Remember I said it's pointed towards our back. And then as we dilate, the cervix comes up and the cervix changes its consistency. So here's a little interactive. Everybody put your finger out. And then I want you to touch your forehead. This would probably be what a cervix feels like, or this is what a cervix feels like, similarly when we're pregnant, okay? As the cervix starts softening up, then it feels more like our nose, okay? A little softer, a little more pliable. And then when our cervix is nice and soft and ready to start opening and thinning, that's when it's going to feel like our lips, okay? So many things, so many ways that the cervix changes. And the cervix is kind of the star of the show. Andrew says, cervixes are cool. Cervixes. Is that the plural for cervix? It must be. Cervixes? Totally agree. Totally agree. Okay, so I want to test some of your knowledge about cervixes, like Andrew was talking about. And we're going to do it in kind of a game show-ish format. A little bit of a game show format. Let me change my slide. Okay. Here we go. Game show. Setting up my game show real quick because it has a pretty neat sound effect. Okay, so you can play along. You're watching in the chat. Give me a true or a false, okay? Those are your two answers that you can have. And we're just going to do 5 questions on the cervix. There aren't any prizes, but you can have the glory of knowing the questions right if you get them right, okay? Here we go. If they are true, you're going to hear this sound, okay? And if it's false, we're going to hear this. Okay, here we go. Question number 1. Does the cervix make change prior to going into labor? So what I mean by change is, does it change in any of those ways? The position, the consistency, how it feels, the face or the dilation, and the effacement. So let me know in the chat. And true. Looks like you guys, a lot of you said yes. So it is true. Now, does it always change prior to labor? No. And if you stick with me for the next 14 days, you're going to probably hear this several times, that labor is different for everyone. Woohoo! It says Jamie got a woohoo. Labor is so different for everyone. So there is a spectrum of normal. And I say that so much in childbirth class. Sometimes it's annoying to people. Like, I have an engineering background. So us engineers, we like things kind of definite, like just tell me what it is. If you are an engineer, if you can relate, let me know in the chat. So it can change prior to labor. Doesn't always, it can. Okay, question number 2. Does the status of the cervix predict when full-blown labor is going to start? So if you go into your care provider, so when I say care provider, I mean your doctor or your midwife, whoever you're seeing, and they check your cervix and they say your cervix is open and thinned and it's started to dilate. Is there a prediction that they can say it will start in a certain number of hours or days or whatever? No. So many no's. So many. You guys, you're so good. You guys are doing great. So no. And I've got to share that I have heard these stories so many times. And it almost like messes with your head, okay? It is, if you go in and your OB checks your cervix at week 39 and they say, no, 0% effaced, totally thick. If they drew your cervix, they would be like, here it is. And then you go home and you're like, I'm not going to go into labor anytime soon. You know, your cousin calls and says, are you anything happening? And you're like, no, just had an appointment. Nothing's happening. And then sure enough, overnight, your water breaks and you go into labor. Happens. This happens. I've seen this happen time and time again, both ways. Both where you had a check and nothing was happening, then you go into labor. Or the other way around is also a little bit hard on your psyche when you're waiting for labor to start and you go in and you're 2 centimeters dilated and you're like, pack those bags. Tell your partner, we better be ready to go. We better tell your work you're not going to be there tomorrow. I'm taking time off now. And then that goes on for a week. It is not predictive. Okay. It's kind of a soapbox of mine. I got on it for a second. Okay. Number 3 is, does the cervix open at a steady pace? So 1 centimeter an hour, and when you're in active labor, something like that. Let me know. Nope. No. Nope. Not at all, actually. It actually, even though you might hear it, that statement that, oh, the cervix opens on average a centimeter an hour. That is kind of one of those old statements that is still being tossed around in healthcare. And it's one of those statements that I just want to throw it in the trash can, because it really sets you off on, you can't mentally prepare for that. If you are in labor and it has taken 10 hours to get 3 centimeters dilated, you will start panicking if you think it's going to take 10 hours for the next 3 and 10 hours for the next 3, right? Labor doesn't happen like that. And often we see the cervix will sometimes take a long time, until about 6 centimeters where it's active. And then once we hit active labor at about 6 centimeters, we start seeing more change faster, and then it speeds up at the end. However, it's different for everyone. So if you are in labor and you hear this false statement about the cervix dilates about 1 centimeter an hour, you're just going to take out your cell phone. You're going to download a app. What is this app? Sound effects app. And you're going to go, no, maybe not. But that's what you're going to think. Okay. Oh, how are we doing? Awesome. Oh, Tara. I like this, Tara. Assuming certain factors can affect it, like stress. Yes, Tara. Many factors can affect it. Factors like position of the baby, whether your water's broken or not, how low the baby is, what station, lots of things that we're going to cover in more depth in other classes, but you are on the money. Nice work. Okay. So next one. This is a particularly exciting one that I like to talk about. So I'm going to try not to go off on a tangent. Are cervical exams done prior to labor? So in the office during prenatal visits, prior to labor, are they necessary? Are cervical exams done prior to labor necessary? That's another no. So if you had any doubt about it, reference question number 2. Question number 2 gives you the answer of question number 4, okay? As a reminder, question number 2 was, are cervical exams predictive of when labor is going to happen? Okay, no. So unfortunately, this is a practice that still happens really commonly if you are in the United States. So my colleagues that are across the pond over in the UK, that is not done regularly. Other countries, especially in Europe, are not doing cervical exams. Or when I say cervical exams, I mean vaginal exams. They're the same thing. They're checking your cervix and the baby's position as well. So they are not necessary. Now, there might be some circumstances where they are necessary. Routine cervical exams are not necessary. There might be a case where someone has other conditions going on, other things going on, other health complications that they would like to see your cervix. But that's not what I'm talking about here. This is what I'm talking about is routine cervical exams in the office. Okay. Last one. You guys are ready. Here we go. Number 5. That is, are there risks to checking your cervix? Are there any risks? That was a yes. So there are some risks to having your cervix checked. The main one is the risk of infection. So anytime anything is inserted into your vagina, there is a risk of bacteria also coming along and risk of infection. Now, the risk goes up significantly if your water has broken. So because the body is pretty amazing, I'm going to say that 100 times probably while I teach these classes. But that amniotic sac does a ton of work keeping the baby nice and protected from infection. But there are other risks. One of them is breaking the bag of water. If the cervix is, if the provider accidentally snags the bag during a check, again, that would be, let's say the cervix is open, right? Maybe not this open, but open, does a check, could rupture the membranes, which isn't always a bad thing, but it is a risk. So what I would love, the takeaway just of this whole cervix game show portion, is to know that there are some differences and options for having your cervix checked. So if it is something that hasn't felt optional with a care provider, with your care provider, and that happens sometimes, often, I would say, because it's routine, and your care provider might say, hey, at our next appointment, at your 36-week appointment, we will do your group B strep test and we'll check your cervix. So it is presented in a way of matter of fact and feels like a need, but a lot of things in labor and birth might feel like a need, but actually there are options. And this is a theme that I think is so important. And it's one of the reasons that I love my job of being a doula and a childbirth educator, because I want people to know their options. And sometimes it's as easy as just saying, do I have an option to have that done? And your care provider might say, sure, you don't have to have a cervical exam if you don't want to. And it just is opening up that communication line. So you have options when it comes to your cervix. You guys did a great job. I just did a quick look each time to see what your answers were, and so many awesome answers. I love it. Let's see, cervix. How are we feeling about it? I want to show, or for those of you, I know several people in advance got the companion book. So I want to let you know of 2 pages to look at for more information on the cervix. Page number 4 is my go-to anatomy reference. And then page number 9 has a great image of what the cervix looks like as it is opening. So if you have the book and you want some more information, make sure you check out those pages. Cool. Okay, I'm going to get a quick sip of tea. You guys, if you have any questions about the cervix, put them in there. If I don't get to, or I will get to them at the end. Awesome. Let's see where we are. Let me go back to my slides. I love that we have 126 people watching. That is amazing. We talked about how birth works. A lot of the topics that I probably skimmed over, like rupturing the membranes, amniotic sac, stay tuned. Each class, I will go in depth to more about how birth works. I'm going to put baby back real quick because we're going to get into some coping strategies. Hey guys, if you want to support this free class, I'm going to do a quick plug. And if you've never watched like video gaming, that's where this is popular. You can always do a super sticker or a super chat to support the channel. I also really appreciate likes and shares. It really helps other people find this and keep this class free. Awesome. Who is ready for my favorite coping strategy that we call limp and loose in labor. So limp and loose in labor has a lot to do with, grabbing my time, has a lot to do with the cervix, because this cervix has to change a lot. And one thing that will slow down cervical dilation is when we are the opposite of limp and loose. When we are tight and closed and clenched and have tons of tension. So if we have tension in our jaw, if we have tension in our body, our cervix is not going to open like it should. And just let me know if you're walking along and you stub your toe. Isn't one of the first things that you do when you experience pain kind of do this sort of thing, like tense up? It's almost like you want to brace against that pain. If you're like me, that's what I do. And I love to watch birth videos, and I work with people in labor, obviously. And it is so common that as soon as pain ramps up is to do this, okay? Is to do a tense shoulders, arms, and the thing that I see all the time. So support people in the audience. I am talking to you guys. Your job, one of your main roles that you can do to help in labor is to look for tension and to help your partner see where they're tensing, bring awareness of it. So if you saw this, you could put a hand on her shoulder and just make her aware of that tension. If you see this, one thing that I see a lot is if someone's sitting in the hospital bed, there's these rails you can imagine that are there to make sure that you don't fall out. Not that you're going to, but there's safety. People put their hands on the rails and just clench them down. And I almost feel like it's like they're riding a roller coaster, that bed, when the pain comes. Whoo. Okay, we don't want that. The last one, this is going to blow your mind if you haven't heard this, really. The people that do research on this field have linked the cervical dilation to your jaw and how loose and open it is. What? That's crazy, right? So if you're clenching your jaw, your cervix is clenched up. So if you're somebody who holds tension in your jaws, support people. Make sure you know that. Make sure that you are checking that in labor. Now, I have a handout on this that I'm going to bring up. So let's see. Nope. Give me 1 second. Oh, here we go. Okay. Limp and loose in labor. So I have 8 tips. Remember when I talked about how going through some of these strategies sometimes can feel like you can feel kind of dumb. This is maybe the time that you might feel dumb. Stick with me anyway. This is where I want you to practice. If you are watching this and you're not the pregnant person, practice anyway, just like you were the person going through labor. Or if you are a doula or childbirth educator, practice anyway. It's helpful. So I want to go through these 8 tips, and they are super easy. I have this in a handout. Actually, this handout is available in 2 places. One, it's in a pack of handouts. Link is below. It's also in the Supporting Her course. So if you have either of those, you have this handout. And I recommend printing it and bringing it and putting it on the bed, putting it in wherever you're laboring so you can see it. Okay, let's jump into the first one. So the first one is your jaw. So what we want to do in labor is let our mouth open and let our lower jaw hang. Okay, so now my sons, I have 2 sons. They're 13 and 10, almost 11. They don't like me to say this, but it's the gaming look, okay? The slack jaw look. That's what we're looking for. You know, if you're playing video games and you're like, that's what we want. Number 2 is to shake out your arms and hands. So if you notice that when a contraction comes and you're tense, right? Or you see that your partner is tense, I want you to do it's just like this. Just a little shake. Just a little shake. Okay. Now let's see what number 2 or 3 and 4 are. 3 and 4. I don't have this perfectly. That's a little bit better. 3 and 4 are, 3 is my favorite and the one that looks the most stupid, and that is horse lips. So when you are super tense, you're dealing with contractions, you just can't catch a break. Yes, I did just do horse lips on YouTube Live in front of 127 live people and however many people are watching the replay. That's what I'm doing. Judy, you have a great question, Judy. So I'm going to put it up here. Do you do these as the contraction hits? This is a great question. You do these whenever you need to just relax. And I find that it's not something that you can do for hours. So remember our 18-hour, right, labor, that first labor, that's not effective. But it is effective when labor comes on super strong. Sometimes you see labor like going along sort of at this intensity, and then all of a sudden, woo, it just gets stronger. And you're like, it is, if you're the support person and you see your partner was dealing with labor great, and then all of a sudden they're like holding their breath. What you can do is the mirroring technique, and you just go, your partner will see you doing that, hear that, and be like, oh, that's what I should do. Do that. It's a great tool to have in your pocket when things change and you need a new strategy fast. Go to horse lips. Again, not for hours. Maybe just for one contraction until you can regroup and say, okay, let's change this position. Or maybe I saw it recently, or over the past 2 years. Is that recently? I guess it is in my life. Over the past couple of years, the horse lips being awesome during a cesarean when, you're waiting for the surgery, tense. Okay. It's like a big, deep breath. It's one of my favorites. Okay. How are we doing for time? Okay. We're doing good. Next one is to just rest your hands with palms facing upward. So what I see, like, people have a tendency, if they're sitting in a chair that has arms, that they want to just grip the arms. And like, there's usually rocking chairs available. If you're birthing at a hospital or a birth center, there's a rocking chair that, feels really good to rock in labor. But I don't want you to grab onto those sides, because grabbing on and gripping is going to put all of this tension here. Again, limp and loose. We want nice and loose. So a way to avoid that is just to put your palms upward and open your hands. It also prevents that fist clenching. And partners, this is a great time for you to just say, hey, during the next contraction, let's put our palms up. Let's put our palms up. And beware that a lot of these feel weird, right? We're used to bracing against pain. Excuse me. So for a couple of contractions, it might feel strange. Let me take a quick sip. But you get used to it and you practice and you get better at it. Okay. Ooh, I love this topic. I seriously could talk forever on it. I'm not going to, because we've got to talk about moving shoulders up and down. Personally, this is the one. Oh, I was too far away. I'm sorry. I just saw that. Thanks. Thank you, Keisha, for letting me know. I'm going to be better at, I'm tiny right now, but hopefully you guys get the picture. Moving shoulders up and down. This is where I personally keep all of my attention. You know, I'll be at the computer, right, working on my YouTube videos, and all of a sudden my teenage daughter comes by and she puts her hand on my shoulders and is like, you're hunched over again and all tight up. So, you know, if you're one of these shoulder people in labor, just do some quick shoulder rolls, do some up and downs in between the contractions, shake your arms, hands up, shoulder lifts, horse lifts, check your jaw, do all these. These 3 phrases next for the next technique are golden for support people. Ragdoll, boneless, limp and loose. Use those. Keep those in mind. Those should trigger this conversation. Those should trigger what we talked about here. We want loose. We want open. And we want open because, hey, if we can make this cervix open faster, good, right? Also, if somebody just jumped into this video and saw me pointing at this and calling it a cervix, they are going to be completely lost, right? If that is you, watch the beginning. You'll catch up. I promise you. Stay with me. How are we in the chat? You guys are quiet. I hope you're practicing. We're thinking about these techniques. Let me know. Let me know. Okay, I am trying to move my slide up a little bit to show my last 2. My last 2, the first one, which is number 7, and that is check in with your bum. No clenching of your butt. So tightening your butt, glutes need to be, I'm sitting here holding my butt, like that's going to help. You guys can't really see it though, because I'm small. We want our butt to be nice and loose in labor. That is going to help us open, open, open. Okay. I had a client I was working with one time and I said, how are the contractions? How are you feeling? And she said, good. I'm just clenching up my butt when they come and it makes it feel better. And I was like, oh, hold up. We can't do that. That's not helpful. So we don't want to do that. Check in with your butt. The last one, anytime you feel tight areas, tight ankles or legs, quads, because you've been doing different positions, just wiggle them out. Do shoulder rolls, roll your hands, all of these different, movements, roll your neck, all loose. Oh, I love this, Laura. Loosey-goosey. Yes, loosey-goosey. I should add that to my handout because I like loosey-goosey. Thank you, Laura. That's awesome. Good. Hunter says we're good. Good in the chat. Trying to stay active. Good. Love it. Okay. So 8 techniques for us. And let me check my notes. I told you where the handouts are. Each of these strategies, they work best when both people are doing it. And by both people, I mean pregnant person, support person, doing it together. Have you ever done something weird or different? Trying to think, I use different examples, but let's say if you're doing like a new dance, right? Say you're learning a new dance. I mean, let me know in the chat if anyone has learned a new dance lately. Actually, before the pandemic, my family and I took a family dance class. So it was very fun. So you're doing a new dance, right? And you feel awkward. But if you can look over and you see your partner is doing the same awkward motions, right? It feels better. And that is exactly how it is in labor. Having someone to mirror, having someone to copy, it is so helpful. And it is really just, if you had to compare verbal support, like verbally saying like, move your shoulders up and down. and you had that on one side, or you could just go like this as a support person to your partner. The action and the non-talking is heads and shoulders above the other one. It is so much better. Okay. But what makes it even better, let me see if I can slide back here and get to, here we go. What is even better is when we can practice. Okay. So let me know in the chat, are you ready for some practice? We have 10 more minutes in today's class. Again, if you are finding things that you like about the class, please hit the like, share. All of that helps. All of that helps this class. Okay. Practice is key because as we are learning new skills, when we practice, we are going to be better each time we practice. So if we are learning a sport, if we're doing free throws, if we're trying to cook eggs, if we are learning a new instrument, if we're learning a new language, all of these get better with practice. The same really goes for childbirth, these childbirth techniques. Now, the hard part about them is that we don't have contractions to test them with, right? It's kind of like, well, I can practice, breathing, but what is it going to be like? Yeah, I understand that. I get that totally. However, practice is helpful. Now I'm sounding like a broken record, a teacher that just keeps saying, do your homework, but I don't care. You guys did not show up here for me to not be truthful, right? You want me to bring my best, and that's where we are. So I recommend a small amount every day. Now, if you are coming to these classes every day, done, at least for the next 14 days, you're going to get your practice in. What we're going to do is we are going to do, let me get over here real quick, because I have a video that is going to help our practice. Okay. So here are the instructions. So make sure that you are listening here closely, because I'm going to put a timer on for 30 seconds and you won't hear me giving any other explanation for 30 seconds. So it doesn't sound very long, but as early labor starts, 30 seconds is about the time of a contraction. Okay. So 30 seconds, I'm going to put on the clock. What I would like for you to do is spend the first 15 seconds, so from 30 to 15, trying out one of those limp and loose strategies, okay? One of those limp and loose strategies. So whether that is shoulders, jaw, horse lips, butt, wiggling everything, saying those words out loud with that loosey-goosey that was added by, who was it? I totally forgot, Laura. Adding those, doing any of those strategies, hands up. Everybody, let me know in the chat if you have two in mind. It's a little bit of a delay. So as soon as I see you guys say you have two in mind, what we're going to do is we're going to turn on 30 seconds. And I want you to just breathe and try those two strategies. Okay. While you're doing that, think about that cervix dilating and effacing, dilating and effacing. Okay. So it's a short amount of time, but I will go quiet and you will just see the 30 seconds on the video. And then when it's done, then we're going to regroup and talk about how that went. Okay. I see at least one person, Simone. Okay. And your broker, Janae. Okay, good. Here we go, guys. Let's get those 30 seconds going right now. We did it. You guys did it. You did it. You got to practice in. I know it was 30 seconds. It wasn't that much, but it was something. Let me know in the chat which ones you did and how the 30 seconds felt. Did it feel long? Did it feel short? Let me know. I see Keisha said she did some horse lips. Horse lips. Yes. Awesome. Who else did horse lips? It felt really short. Good. Kate says she did palms up and jaw drop. Good. Nice. You can do them together, a lot of them, right? Loose jaw, resting hands. Everything was soothing. Excellent. Great. Okay. So wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. We are in the last 4 minutes of class, and I promise to answer questions. I'm going to scroll up and look for questions. If you guys have questions, let me know. Let me just share the screen real quick and make sure that I am not missing anything. Oh, no, not yet. Don't go yet. I want to make sure that we get any questions in. Distracted, focusing, wisdom. Oh, I love it. This is all so good, so good. Okay. Scrolling up if you guys have any questions. I do see a question from Kathy. Can the cervix get swollen? So you might have heard that the cervix can swell. And if the cervix swells, it's not opening and thinning. It actually, sometimes if your cervix is swollen, that you'll get a cervical check that is less than what it was because the cervix is kind of bigger and puffier. That can happen. It's fairly rare. And it usually has to do with the way that the baby is positioned and hitting your cervix. So in labor, there's not a lot you can do about it. It's actually something that I probably wouldn't put much energy into since it is fairly rare. And yeah, I hope that was a good enough answer. Does stripping the membranes of the cervix have any risk? Stripping the membranes the main risk of that are the two that we spoke about with cervical check is two also, that the water is broken. So the amniotic sac is ruptured. And that it could introduce infection if that happens. So sometimes stripping the membranes can cause that. And if, say you're in your doctor's office for your 40-week appointment and they check your cervix, strip your membranes, which we'll talk more about, but it's basically, where's my cervix? Where's my big open cervix? Putting fingers in, not this big. Let's say, let me find a smaller cervix opening. Okay, like this, putting fingers in and separating the membranes from the cervix, from like baby's head cervix. That if that does cause a rupture of your membranes, then basically labor is started for you. So you're on a clock for infection risk. So that is the main, I would say the main risk of that. Okay, looking up. Let's see. Okay. Adrian says, do you have a recommendation for videos of a vaginal unmedicated birth? Adrian, this is a great question. While I don't have it right now, I will get something together. I am actually working on a project that has to do with YouTube birth videos and birth vlogs. And so I can get you that information. I am writing it down right now. Vaginal unmedicated. Great question. Besides, is it lady? Let me know if that's right. Besides stress and tightening, what else that is controllable can affect delivery? Oh my gosh. So let me look at my schedule because we are talking about movement and position changes. And I think that's on in 2 days. So that's Thursday. Movement and position and how the baby is positioned can have a huge effect on the dilation of the cervix. As the baby is able to put more pressure on the cervix will dilate faster. So the baby's position has an effect and how low the baby is and station as well. Also, contraction intensity. So we are talking contractions and contraction intensity. I think that same night. Look at me. I've got it all organized in a little grid here of what we are talking about. So yes, on Thursday. So let me get another question. Great question. Oh, yes, Tara, I'll put that on. So she also has a cool video with ice cubes. Yes, so I have a great practice for labor video that is on YouTube, and it's also in the Supporting Her course that can walk you through practicing for labor, kind of simulates labor by holding ice. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Tara. And let's see. Oh my gosh. Jamie says, if you're fully dilated in face, why do providers suggest laboring down for a while rather than starting to push? So laboring down is when your cervix is ready to go. It's in exactly that outlet is opened up, baby is there. And why do some care providers suggest waiting? So that has been, research is kind of mixed on that. And actually there was a study recently that said laboring down isn't helpful. And laboring down is really only done with epidurals. So epidurals, when someone is, I'm using quotes here, comfortable, so they're not having to really work through the contractions, most of their pain has been taken away with an epidural. There is a thought that if you just wait a while before you start pushing, that your body will work on its own and get the baby lower before pushing starts, so that active pushing doesn't make you tired. That's the concept behind it. I've actually seen it in both ways, both helpful and not helpful. But Jamie, we will talk about that in more depth in pushing, but it's a great question, especially since we're talking about the cervix. Moya, is a long early labor bad for the baby? Nope, totally normal. Long early labor, not only normal, but very common. But rest is what I suggest. I didn't mean to make that a rhyme. Christina, you have a great question that I want to go into more depth, and I don't want to like rush through it. So we will talk about pushing on its own in another class. I believe it is near the end of the 2 weeks, so probably around December 10th-ish, 9th-ish. So we will talk about tearing and the perineum and best practices for that. So hang in there. I just don't want to totally, make a short answer for you. Short answer is yes, there are some things, but I want to get more depth into it. Let's see. This is about the cervix from B Cross 626. If cervical checks aren't absolutely necessary, what would be medical reasons why a provider might want to do them? Oh, whoa. This is so complicated. It's been routine practice. And a lot of routine practice that we see in labor and birth isn't necessarily medically necessary. And that seems strange, but it is the absolute truth. There are practices that have kind of gone by the wayside, like, for example, enemas. Getting an enema in early labor used to be common practice. That was standard. Done. You get one. You get to the hospital later. Here's your enema. And research said, no, not necessary. And it finally stopped. This is kind of in that same vein that it's still being done. And some providers I talk to say they do it because their patients want them. even though they don't ask their patients. So it's kind of strange. Let me know if that was a clear answer for you. And Keisha says she's group B strep when she gets to the hospital. So that is a great question for your provider. So unfortunately, but I want to make sure I don't answer anything that your provider should really take care of. Let's see. Oh, will the classes be recorded? That is a great question. The classes are recorded and they're available on YouTube. However, they're going to be available for a short amount of time, like open to YouTube for search, but they will be available if you have the link. So a reminder, oh shoot, we're over. What is going on? I went long on my first class. That's okay. If you are here with me, thank you for hanging out with me. If you want to be notified of all the links of all the classes, make sure you fill out that link below about being a YouTube childbirth class insider so that I have your information so you can get all the information. Okay. So many questions. I don't know if I'm going to get them all. Why induce if amniotic fluid is low? Yes. This is also a longer question. Okay. So I don't mean to be short, but send me an email and I can, or post in the comments below if I don't get your question, not the chat, but post in the comments so that I can get to these. If you need a question today, if you don't need your question answered today and you can bring it tomorrow or to another class, I will be here for you because I do see some more questions that look really good. Tim has a great one, forceps and vacuum. We're going to cover that in the pushing class. Again, if I missed your question, which I think I did miss some questions, I'm going to get better at this. You know how I was preaching about practicing? Guess who else needs to practice? YouTube Live, me. So I will be better next time. If you have a particular question you want me to try to get to before next class, put it down in the comments below. And thank you all for showing up. Again, your support of the channel is huge. It really helps other people find it. The likes, the shares, the super chats, all of it goes and helps me bring this class to more people and hopefully reach more people and help them out in such an important life event. I hope to see you in the chat tomorrow. And don't forget, oops, that was my reminder that I should be wrapping it up. Don't forget that links to everything below, including the handouts and the book and anything else I talked about should be below. And I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Thanks, everyone. Thanks. Good luck, Moya. Good luck with your labor. Keep us posted. Bye, guys.